The question in this video comes down to an essential belief of whether you believe or not that Christ would give his children a snake to eat. That's what it comes down to. And so I think you're going to be very interested in what this video has to say, because it determines what kind of Christ you actually believe in. The challenge to find a better church. For just what are you looking? In today's age of discontentment and wanting everything to fit their own model, their own idea of what Christianity should be, people are constantly searching to find a better church. And they jump from one church to the next church, hoping to find the best church. And you find all this in the fact that there are thousands of churches in any city and varying degrees of what they believe is the truth. And sometimes you'll find these churches right across the street from each other. And one will go to one church one time and the church across the street the next time. And now there's YouTube, so you can get on YouTube and you can listen to whatever church service you want to on YouTube and whatever minister on YouTube. Some of the church service becomes more like entertainment than it does prayer and worship. And so it leaves the average professing Christian in bewilderment of all the doctrinal chaos and all the different types of music, from everything from virtual rock and roll to the old time music from the 1800s, and preaching where it's more like a theatrical show, and who can outdo the last speaker. And a lot of it is of true Christianity is lost in the form of worship, which was in the church from the very beginning. So today I'm going to discuss the challenge to find a better church. And hopefully I can address some key fundamental issues that will settle people and their minds down into a place where they can find peace and understanding and realize just what life is all about and what worship is all about. So let us begin. Jesus Christ in Matthew 7, verse 8 said, "Everyone that asks receives, and he that seeks finds, and to him that knocks it shall be opened to him." He said, "Or what man is there of you, whom if his son asks for bread, you would give him a stone?" Now I want you to listen very carefully to this because it's so pertinent. Or if he asked for a fish, you would give him a serpent? Who would do that? If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give you good things to them that ask of him? If you wish to find God's will in a church, remember when this was written and this was said. When Christ was on earth. Now there are people who preach that Christ gave all his disciples a serpent when they asked for a fish. That's what they teach. That Christ is not any better. In fact, he's worse than a human being. That Christ would start a church and he would give it over to a serpent so all of his disciples would become those who participate in a serpent. That's what the Adventists teach. And much of the Protestant religion teaches the same thing. That Christ started a church, and according to the Adventists, 250 years later, the church Christ started turned into a serpent. And so Christ called all these disciples from all over the world where the church preached the gospel, and they brought them all into the church. And then he tricked them, and he gave them a serpent instead of a fish.
The Bible is a witness to the church. It was written by the church. It was not written by the Bible. The Bible was canonized in 390 AD, and the church was formed in 33 AD. So if you belong to a Bible-believing church, then you better belong to the Holy Catholic Church, who was built upon the foundation of the apostles and of the prophets, and Jesus Christ being the chief cornerstone. If your church was built on anything else or by anybody else, then it's the wrong church. It's a hard saying, but it's the truth. Beware lest you give up your salvation and refuse to obey the commandment of God to obey the church, the commandment of Christ to obey the church and its bishops and its elders. If they do evil, God is not a respecter of persons. They will be punished. In the most scathing rebuke in Matthew 23, Christ laying into the Pharisees, and he said in verse 1, the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Do as they say, but don't do as they do. Even then, before the church came into being, in the old economy of the law of Moses was in action. Christ told his disciples to obey the elders of the Pharisees. Just don't do what they do. Christ always upholds authority. He will not let the sinners, the priests, the bishops, or the popes go unpunished if they do evil. You can rest assured in that. But neither will he let you go unpunished either. So, you want to belong to a church? There's only one that was built upon the foundation of the apostles and the prophets, and Jesus Christ being the chief cornerstone. And that is the Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. And the Bible is a witness to that fact. For all of those who like to say the Catholic Church wasn't formed until 325 or whatever date they make it up, 326, 376, 375, 425, 538, whatever. They're all wrong, because Polycarp, the Bishop of Smyrna, from the book of Revelation, was taught at the feet of the Apostle John. The most faithful church writes in 117 AD. He writes this, quote, "The church of God which sojourns at Smyrna, to the church of God sojourning in Philemon, and to all the congregations of the Holy and Catholic Church in every place." Christ commanded his church to be holy. He commanded it to be Catholic. And it is, no matter what you call it. No matter what you want to say, it was separated, sanctified by God to be holy and set apart as holy as much as the Sabbath day. And you can't undo it. And neither will he undo it. I hope you will go to my channel, listen to the other tapes regarding the Sabbath, the immortality of the soul, clean and unclean meats, and righteousness of faith. These are all very important scriptures that hold, and truths that hold eternal life. These are the words of life. They're not my words. They're God's words. You can choose to ignore them or not. You can choose to do whatever you want. It's entirely up to you.